welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be on right now. It's been a couple of weeks of excitement, getting prepared, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but this has got to be close to the top.
Thank you, Reader's Magnet, and thank you, John, for putting this forth and taking the chance on us authors in presenting this out to the world.
I've enjoyed this immensely, Joanne.
Ellie, so have I. Thank you for who you are, and thank you, Reader's Magnet. You all are beautiful, and you've worked so very hard, and we are blessed.
We are.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. We thank Reader's Magnet and everybody that's involved. I love Reader's Magnet. They say, we share your stories with the world.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. And I think this is the last day of the Reader's Magnet Festival of Storytellers signature program, and I am so grateful to be here again. Today is Authors of the Hour, and I am going to firstly show my book, well, one of my books. How do we do that? More Heaven. I don't know that you could see it. Because every child is special. I've been presenting this through Reader's Magnet and Festival of Storytellers. I have other books, Secrets to Lasting Relationships, Sense Your Way to Life Satisfaction, Woke, and more. But what's important is that More Heaven is my baby. And basically, More Heaven was about children who had special needs and autism and were not allowed in public school. And eventually, due to a beautiful way that the government said, hey, you've got to help these kids. Over 1 million kids were left out. We're giving you money. Please make sure that you open up programs and classes for these children. And I was hired as one of the teachers to pilot a program in Philadelphia, which everybody was skeptical about, but we plowed through and became successful with it. But today I'm really here to introduce a friend and colleague of mine, Eleanor Gaccetta, or known as Ellie, who's an MBA. She's an author, a speaker, and a baker. Formerly, Ellie was a legislative and policy analyst for the state of Colorado, the city and county of Broomfield, and then as a private contractor. Her almost 40-year career ceased when Ellie's mother fell and broke her hip at age 92. Thus began Ellie Gaccetta's own journey of being a 24/7 sole caregiver for her mother for the next 9.5 years. During that time, Ellie's book, One Caregiver's Journey, which she'll show you in a little bit, was born with personal memories, insight, as well as advice for caregivers. The book is a snapshot of realities, changes, and the challenges of caregiving, and one caregiver's very special journey, Ellie's. The 6 months after her mother's passing at age 102, pretty amazing, folks, Ellie journaled about her reintegration back into the world, which wasn't easy. And her quote, "The biggest challenge for reintegration after 10 years of isolation has been to not be an outsider looking into the world that passed you by." Think about that for a moment, folks, because caregivers, especially ones that are caregiving for 24/7, really have a very arduous job. And sometimes they're not plugged into what's going on outside and keeping up with things. They can't. They're so busy taking care of so many kinds of things, from bathing and feeding and making sure that everything is going okay in terms of medication and activities, and even being able to help hopefully have conversations and really give the care that their family members or friends need. And it's very, very important. And what happens when you're caregiving, I was a caregiver too for my mother, not like Ellie, I mean, but my sister was actually in another state. And so basically I was the sole caregiver here. And hello, JP Apicila. I hope I pronounced your name right. Great to see you again. I do have some books, and I think I showed them to you, and I would love you to get some of my books. I don't know. By the way, this isn't my own room. I wish it was, because of the piano and just how lush and lavish it is. Hi, Angelo. Great to see you too. These people are wonderful. And basically, something that's so important about Reader's Magnet is that they really give exposure for authors, their books, and the connections have been so beautiful. Ellie and I met here, and we connected beautifully here. We became friends after this. So thank you, Reader's Magnet, for not only featuring our books and giving authors a very important voice, but helping us develop beautiful relationships, hopefully that last a lifetime. I know Ellie's and mine will. Getting back to caregiving, there were several people on our last presentation who were caregivers, and Ellie and I were talking about that too, because it's so difficult. Somebody actually was caregiving for two people, a mother and a father. And that's got to be so difficult. I remember when I was caregiving for my mom, and again, there are so many things that you can't do. I actually was working at the time because I had to some extent. And every once in a while, I would get a little bit of a break. And I remember one time, somebody was taking care of my mother for a few hours. I went to a movie theater, and this is true. I went to a movie theater, sat in the back, very back, got popcorn, and cried my eyes out. I don't know what the movie was. I can't even remember that. All I remember is that was a way of releasing some of the stress that I had, because I couldn't do it with my mother there. But what's really beautiful, and I remember at her passing, I was thinking back to all those days, even though they were hard, even though sometimes I thought I couldn't go on, and how do we do that? And again, Ellie's mom was living with her 24/7, so that's a totally different thing. I felt that what a blessing it was. What a blessing to be able to spend the last few years of my mother's life with her, and taking care of her. And she had dementia, so there was a time where she would just say, "Yes, mommy." That's what she would call me, mommy. "Yes, mommy." Even that was a little bit sad. One day I said, "Mom, do you know what day is? What day this is?" She said, "Monday." I said, "No, it's not Monday. It happens to be Tuesday. But do you know what day it is?" "Monday? No, it's Tuesday. But do you know what day it is?" And finally I said, "It's my birthday." And that's very hard when your own mom doesn't remember your birthday. And a lot of people have challenges with Alzheimer's, with dementia, and are caregiving for their families that way. And it's not always easy because we often tend to get frustrated when, like my mother was repeating that all the time, or just being confused. And but it is wonderful. It is important. And again, like I said earlier, it's such a beautiful gift. Now, Ellie had a different situation. And it's so important to know that even though we go through that and have a difficult journey with it, like I said earlier, there's so much to be grateful for that opportunity. I was able to laugh with my mother. Okay, somebody's asking a question. Okay, I want to know you more. I want to know you more as an author. What do you love about yourself? What do I love about myself? I love my sense of humor. And I have a passion for writing. I've had a passion for writing since I've been very young. And I just love it. When I'm writing, the world seems to go away and I can just be in my own creative place and really connect with joy, with purpose, and so many wonderful things. I also love that I know I'm here to serve, and it's beautiful to feel that, Angelo, and I think you may feel that too when we're serving. I think that that's one of the reasons that I'm here in this lifetime in the world. It's beautiful to see other people succeed, to see and feel other people, because I'm helping them be able to move forward in their lives, be able to let go of stress or hardship, or experience joy or even love, or be successful in their business. That to me is one of the most beautiful gifts. And I think that's so very important. I also love that I am not whatever normal is supposed to be, and most of us aren't, but I've always learned differently and thought differently. And as I was a child, that was not very wonderfully received by teachers, because even my writing was different. I did what they called mirror writing. So even though I tried to write the right way, my writing was only able to be seen holding up to a mirror. Now, recently, because I was writing a chapter in one anthology, I was looking up, what does mirror writing mean? Because I never looked at it. But eventually, I got away from it. But when I looked it up, it said that somebody whose brain, who had all sorts of disabilities or whatever in the brain or whatever, and another one said somebody who is very creative. So I chose to think about being behind that one, being the creative person, rather than there was something a little bit skewed with my brain. My earliest memory about writing. Yeah, I actually have stories that I've never published yet from my childhood. One is called Mia Grows Up, and it's about this little girl that actually is looking at the world in different ways, especially with animals. I used to love animals. And when I was younger, I also would be able to, I'd get up earlier, I still do, excuse me, but I'd get up earlier than my family. And I'd get up, get dressed, and go walking outside and be able to look at scenery. And my parents obviously trusted me, but looking at scenery, because it was a wooded area until it became a development for stores and theater. But the most beautiful thing was to be able to be out in nature. I think that's something that's so important for all of us. When you're stressed, when you're feeling that you need something to kind of help you get through, sometimes just being in nature, well, breathing helps, but sometimes just being in nature can be so beautiful and calming. And I do what I call power walks in the morning. There's a couple of beautiful places. I did that this morning where I love to walk. And what it does is it just calms my brain, quiets my brain so that I can think. Now, something else that's important, and this is about one of my memories, and it's not about writing. I used to, because of what my differences with how my brain worked, I never felt good about myself because my teachers kind of thought that wasn't going to be successful, and I guess I kind of incorporated that in my brain, and my head would say to me, Joanne, what's wrong with you? You can't do that. You can't wash a dish. You can't walk. You can't do anything. And that immobilized me for a long time. And I had to figure out by myself, because I didn't share that with my family. I guess I was too embarrassed to. Yes, nature does heal, Angelo. You're so important. And breathing is powerful. Laughter is also wonderful. But getting back to that, I had to figure out a way to get rid of those horrific thoughts that told me I wasn't good enough. I couldn't amount to anything. I couldn't do anything. And I created ways which I still utilize for myself and with other people to help them really erase that mind chatter that makes us feel less than. And today, my brain would say, "Good job, Joanne. Good job, Joanne," which is so much more of a miracle than telling me that I couldn't amount to anything. Angela, you are amazing. Blessed to know you too. And I think, why don't you share something about you, and we can share that with our listeners and the people who are viewing this today. What's so beautiful too about life. Now, we have gone through tremendous challenges with COVID, with a lot that's going on in the world, with so much being politicized. But I think what's so important is to recognize that right now, the gift that I have is I'm here in front of you, being able to communicate, being able to make some sense, some semblance of meaning, being able to be alive, being able to share and be on Reader's Magnet and the Festival of Storytellers. These are magical moments that never come around again. So I say to everybody who's facing challenges, and I know we all face numerous challenges, focus on something today. Think about that. Even close your eyes if you need to. Focus on something today. Doesn't matter how small it is. Something today that gives you a sense of gratitude, that makes you feel so good for being alive, whether it's a loving family, whether it's the sun coming out, whether it's a child, whether it's, I know I had a beautiful Siamese cat who was like a child to me. She was alive for 17 and a half years. She was my baby. And I felt so blessed to have her in my life. And I think that's important. I think we overlook oftentimes some of the little stuff that we have, a smile from a baby, a laughter, a hug, all those things that may touch us in so many beautiful ways. And sometimes we just focus on what we're doing wrong, or the weather is not pleasant outside, or everything that's going on that's not wonderfully kind in the world, and there's a lot of that. But I want you for today to just focus on one thing that allows your heart to sing and allows you to feel good about being here in the moment. And that's it. We have this moment. We don't know about any other moments that we have. We don't know about tomorrow. All we know is about today. So make today as rich and as wondrous and as beautiful and as kind and compassionate and loving, not only for other people, but for yourself as well, because you may not have tomorrow. and you may not have the next day. And that's so very important. I'm going to talk about another book. I was in an anthology called Woke. And in this book, I actually wrote about an injury that I had many, many years ago. And in that time, I couldn't walk. I wasn't able to sit. I was in too much pain. The only thing I was able to do was to lie down. And I remember feeling very, very sorry for myself. But I was also living in what they call the Trinity 3-story house. And I wasn't able, that I was renting at the time, and I wasn't able, because of my injury, to go up to the 3rd floor where my bedroom was. So I would have to stay downstairs. And there was a little courtyard, and I remember I had a little couch out there, and I was sitting out there and feeling, oh, so sorry for myself. And I had a dream. And in the dream, there were these beings from another planet. I was on a like a hospital bed, and they were dressed in white. They weren't talking. They weren't using any instruments, but they were doing healing work on me. And I remember waking up from that dream and feeling, I'm going to be okay. And that's when I started to look into alternative ways of healing to help myself heal, which I did successfully because I can still move and dance and see me sitting. But at that time, I didn't know that that was going to be possible. And so I learned a lot of different techniques for healing that I utilize today with a lot of the people that I coach and counsel, because it works. It helped me heal. And that's why I decided, well, if it helps me, it can help other people too. And so I became certified in a lot of different techniques and modalities to help others. And again, like I said earlier, I believe part of our journey here is to serve. Another part of our journey is to love ourselves as well as to love others, and to make a difference in our lives and in other people's lives. It doesn't matter how small. And that's it. You don't have to have some grandiose way of making a difference. Even the wonderful people that take your trash on a weekly basis, they need to be heralded. The people who are vendors, the people who give out food in restaurants, and chefs who make them, all these people, nurses, doctors, you think about that, are special. And I think it's so important these days to recognize the specialness that's within us. We don't know that enough about ourselves. But take a moment right now, close your eyes, take a moment and think about one thing, and I'm going to answer your question in a minute, Angela, one thing that you're proud of about yourself. And now make it 2. And it doesn't have to be large or grandiose, like I said, but it's important to be able to accentuate that. How did I stay positive amidst challenges? That's a great question, because that's important for all of us. Let's see. Belief, faith, even, and I'll tell you, there were moments that I wasn't positive, and that's part of our reality. There are moments when we feel, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go on. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get past this, or to heal, or to feel better, or to feel right, or whatever it is. But when we go through that and come out of the other side, there are so many gifts. So one of the ways that I did that was with music. Now, I'm an ancient soul here, so there was one song, and I can't even remember, sitting here in limbo, waiting for the dice to fall, sitting here. And I remember singing that song because I couldn't do much of anything else, tears streaming down my face, because it says, and I know that my faith will lead me on. And it was important. It's important to believe in yourself. It's important to have faith that no matter what's going on, and like I said, we've got a lot going on here today, not just here in the studio, but a lot going on, to be able to have a sense of faith. Faith also in yourself, faith for your endurance. And also, speaking of endurance, it's so important. Yes, being grateful, as JP Apicilla says, even for the small things can create a big impact, not only to us, but to the people that surround us. So very true, JP. Thank you. Gratitude can shift us. I always say gratitude can change the complexion of the day. I think I've made a quote about that. Gratitude, you can look at life with, oh, nothing's going right, or oh, what's wrong with today, or oh, the sun isn't out, or blah, 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 a lot of noise. But again, for one moment, I'm alive. I'm here. I'm able to smile. Now, I'll share another thing with you that I haven't shared publicly. A few years ago, I fell down a flight of stairs and I wasn't able to talk. I couldn't even speak complete sentences. I remember that a friend of mine was going to have me on her podcast, and luckily we pre-recorded it because she would ask me questions and I couldn't answer. I'd stop in the middle or I wouldn't remember what I was saying, and it was a very difficult time. But I did a lot of work to heal myself, and here I am, blessed that I can talk, that I could put sentences together, that I'm not in the kind of head pain that I was, where I'd have to wear glasses and earplugs because every normal day sound was too intensified that I couldn't even handle it. Now I'm writing a book about that, but it's not ready yet. And I'll let you know when it is, because I think it's important to be able to share that, and also to share ways that I help myself heal. Think about ways that you get yourself through the day. Is it listening to music? Is it talking to a friend? Is it getting a hug? Is it taking walks in nature? Is it dancing? I love to dance. I still dance. What is it that gives your life a sense of joy, a sense of gratitude, and yes, even a sense of purpose? Because again, I think we're here for a purpose. My purpose, as I told you, is I believe I'm here to serve, and hopefully I'm doing that to help other people, make them feel special and make their lives feel better. What's important is think about what your purpose is. And again, it doesn't have to be huge. It could be raising a loving family. It could be connecting and helping friends. It could be serving in a small way. And hello, Ellie. She is
Hello,
here
Joy.
making a grand entrance.
Yes, I apologize. I apologize.
Oh, I just want to tell you, by the way, I introduced you. I introduced
Okay.
your book, so that we're not going to do that again. We're going to go right into the beautiful Ellie, and we're going to talk about what you do and what you've done with your mom and all that you've done in the world. So that's good. So here's the thing. No more
Okay.
no more apologies. You are on, baby. Okay. So and it's good to see you.
Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Ellie. I was just rambling and rambling. I hope I made some
I'm
sense.
so sorry. The time change got me, and then I've been sitting here for 10 minutes with technical difficulties, and many of them.
That's usually me.
Yeah,
Okay.
indeed.
So tell us a little bit about your mother. I introduced you, and I said about how you were taking care of your mom 24/7, the beautiful introduction that I shared that you beautifully wrote. So talk to us about your mom.
My mother was very quiet, very kind, very docile. By today's standards, she would have be considered a lady. She was she had she just had a beautiful countenance about her. I was very, very very lucky in my caregiving to have had a mother who is she was very mellow. She was not combative. I did not have any trouble with her, and I know that quite often people have trouble with combativeness. That was not at all my issue. I never had an issue with her. In my book, I would say to you, my mother's legacy could be defined by two words: faith and family. And that's pretty much what she was all about. She was very, very strong in her Catholic faith and used to always say, faith can move mountains. And when it didn't, she would say, well, you know, that's okay. That's okay. It'll happen in its time. It'll happen. And then with her family, she was a mother, a grandmother, a great grandmother. She had cousins, she had sisters and brothers, she had, you know, nieces and nephews. When we were growing up, and we had friends who were from other states or other parts of the other parts of Colorado, other parts of the country, they would always refer to her as their Denver grandmother, or their Denver mother, either way. And you know, that was just nice.
JP says, hello, Ellie. We love to have you back. Thank you for being always available for us. God bless you. Thank you, JP.
Thank you, James.
And thank you for others that are saying hello to us. So I think that you've taken on your mother's faith and family. I think that that also is a way that you've defined yourself, in addition to many other ways, including a great sense of humor. But tell us, because everybody is interested in the caregiver's journey, what was it like for you to be a caregiver?
Well, being a caregiver is something you take on willingly. You make the commitment and you do it. I know the pandemic has changed some of that, but it is in my case, I did not have a lot of support. So in my case, I was a 24/7 caregiver, pretty much alone. And for the last 3 years of the almost 10 that I had my mother with me in my home, we lived in these four walls. She was not able to go out, and I would do wind sprints to the grocery store at 5 a.m. in the morning so that I could be home and everything put away and just be ready to care for her when she got up. It's challenging. It's rewarding. There are good things. There are bad things. You well know, you cared for your mother for a while. It's a different life. And when you make a decision to be a caregiver, you pretty much stop being part of the outside world, with friends, with activities, with everything.
You have to invest, like you did, 24/7 in the person that you're caregiving for. So I have a question.
Yes.
How did you take care of you during that time? Because 24/7 is a lot of time to just being so careful that somebody's okay, feeding, bathing, whatever. But what did you do to get yourself through?
Well, there are times you just forget about you. You become very secondary in the whole picture. Everyone always says a caregiver needs to take care of themselves, because if you go down, there's nobody to take care of them. And the couple of times, I remember once during the summer, I I bent over too close to one of my patio pots while I was outside working on them, and I sustained a very deep corneal abrasion, and ended up sitting on the couch next to her for 3 or 4 days while I painfully healed, and she just relished the company. And she talked and she laughed and she sang, and it was just the most wonderful thing for me to be dying on the couch next to her. But we got through it, and um, she'd say, "Well, let's have something, but I know you don't feel good, so don't go fix a lot of food,
So
but let's have something to eat."
okay, Brian said, if you had one wish, sorry about that. Ellie talks
Okay.
like I do, nonstop. So Brian, but we love it. We out talk each other. Brian is saying, Ellie, if you had one wish, what would you like to do with your mom?
If my mother, I will tell you that every day I look at her picture on my mantle behind me, and frequently I say, I'd love, oh, there's yours. There's yours. I'd
You're
love to
always
have you
sending
back,
my
but not the way you were. And I always say that. That is what I say to her almost on a daily basis is, I'd love to have you back, but not the way you were. Brian, if I had one thing we could do, she used to so love to drive to the mountains in the summer. She used to love to go. There's a town north of, well, it's quite a ways from here. It's about 70 miles from here. It's called Estes Park, and it's a small mountain community, and they have a restaurant um, where the patio is on a river. And every year I would take her and her youngest sister, and we would drive the back way, which seemed to take forever, certainly never down the highway, which you could just zip right there. We used to have to take the extremely scenic route. Uh, and after a couple of hours of around and around mountains and seeing this, and oh, isn't that pretty? And look at the field of black-eyed Susans, and oh, look at the sunflowers, and going through the mountain community, we'd get to this little town, and they'd always say, "We got to go eat there. We got to go eat there." And I would always say to the hostess, "I want a table on the river." And that was one of the things that she loved to do was go to Estes Park and have lunch by the river, and then we would meander our way back to town.
I
It
love
was
it.
fun, and I always enjoyed it. It was always a very, and then they used to like to walk through the shops that had linens and chocolates, and I always ended up spending a boatload of money on the two of them, and they get in the car and would laugh and talk all the way home. It was fun. I would do that in a heartbeat.
So caregiving 24/7 is not always easy, as you said. How did it change your life? In what ways, Ellie?
How did it change my life? You know what, Joanne? It made me realize that life is to be lived. Life can be fragile. Life is to be lived. Um, and this is not, I do not mean to, if I sound sour, I sincerely apologize. But the issues are that when you become a caregiver, as I did, and you end a 40-year career as I did. I had a very active social life. I had a lot of friends. I did a lot of things, and when I became a caregiver, everybody moved on, and I would have had anticipated they would move on, but then you're in a soul place. So you learn to be comfortable in your own skin. You learn to appreciate what you bring to the table. You learn to appreciate those who do stay with you. Um, and you learn that life is to be lived and life is okay. And you're going to come through this stronger, and you're going to be more resilient, and you're going to be happy with you, which is, yeah, I
It's a
am.
blessing. Yeah. And you certainly are. I don't just mean happy with you, but that's important. We need to feel good about ourselves. And I have to commend you because you know that I cared for my mother, but certainly
Yes.
not for all those arduous years.
Doesn't matter. You still recognize the commitment.
What would you tell caregivers today? What would you tell them to help them through that very difficult time?
What I would say is, it's okay to say you're not cut out to be a caregiver. Caregiving isn't for everybody. This is a tough gig. Caregiving is a tough gig. It takes a lot out of you. There's a lot of unpleasantries, just as there are pleasantries. You get as many unpleasant things as you do smiles and laughs. And name that tune with my mother tapping on the dish at dinner time, saying, tap, tap, tap. Tell me what song that is.
So Angela wants to know what's your song to your mom? Do you have a signature song for your mom?
You know, I don't have a song for my mother. I don't know. Maybe You Are My Sunshine, which was old. She was just such a joy. We would watch baseball in the summer. She loved baseball. She would watch football. She would watch anything. But when either the national anthem came on or the seventh inning stretch, they would sing God Bless America, and she would sing Mary Had a Little Lamb. She would sing in Italian. She would just sing at the top of her voice. And then when everybody would clap, she would be thrilled because that was her.
She thought they were happy for her.
They were recognizing her song.
I love your mother already. So Angela is saying, hearing these stories and positive words are inspiring. Thank you both. Thank you, Angela, for being here.
Thank you, Angela.
And helping us. But it's so important that we need to, the jolly, let's do it. The Healthy Soul is saying,
Dr. Jolly Show.
I've been trying to convince Ellie of doing something. But the Jolly Show, that could be
that would be fine.
All right. Thank you. Great advice. But I think, you show other caregivers through what you've done and your positive outlook, because a lot of people, like you said, are not ready to be caregivers. And I want to emphasize, don't feel guilty about that. Don't feel that you're failed to do that.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And because with the pandemic, there has been, I would say to you, what I have seen online predominantly, and I never had time to go online. I mean, I don't know how you could be a committed caregiver and sit there and fool around on your phone and try to find advice and people that will give you sympathy. But I do know that the millennial brought out a whole new caregiver, and that was the pandemic brought out millennial caregivers, and they have struggled. They have struggled with the notion of giving up everything. I want to go out. I want to meet with my friends. I want to go to the show. I want to go out of town. My friends have invited me. Why can't I go? What am I going to do? Well, part of this is who's going to sit with grandma. So you want to go somewhere. Who's going to sit with grandma? That's the first thing. You cannot leave. You have to make sure that you have all of your bases covered with your commitment, which is probably why I didn't do a heck of a lot. But you have to be sure that all of your bases are covered. The second thing is, it's okay to say, this isn't my gig. Because what occurs is the angst builds to the point of where they start to feel as though they have, they begin to manifest thoughts that they're going to hurt their loved one. And they will openly admit, I feel like I want to harm them. And that's a problem. That's a problem. and that's a, it's a problem. It's okay to say, you know what, I need to find an alternative. If it's somebody else to help me, if it's how to break this up, if it's to find a facility, it's okay.
JP's quotes, life is to be lived, whether it's living it as a caregiver 24/7, raising a family, or leading a country, big or small, as long as you know it's God's purpose for your life. Beautifully put.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
James. Absolutely.
Thank you. So real quickly, I remember going to family for Thanksgiving and thinking and taking my mom that I'm going to have a little vacation because they'll all take care of her. But they didn't know what to do. So she was going up the stairs herself. And I said, wait a minute, you can't let her go. Somebody, you can't. So basically it was more stressful bringing her in a place where nobody knew what to do or paid any attention to it than just taking care of her by yourself. I want to switch here. Go ahead. But I want to get to your cookbook. So finish what you're going to say.
And we're going to get to that. Or going to Thanksgiving dinner and seeing her pick up the white linen tablecloth and wiping tomato sauce all over it, and her napkin is sitting right here next to her. And then the horrific look on my face and everybody else around the table going, it's okay. It's okay. But my issue like that happened right here in my home. I had company coming in and she wanted to get up, and instead of grabbing her by both hands or helping her up gently, they grabbed her by her arm, and I was in the kitchen hollering, no, if you hurt that shoulder, I'm a dead duck. She won't be able to move if you hurt that shoulder. She won't be able to walk on her walker. She won't be able to get up. Yeah, it's stressful. Sometimes you're better off making the commitment that nobody's going to touch them.
So go ahead, finish. But
okay.
And
so I continued my mother's legacy after she passed away, after I remodeled my house, after I dealt with my my sense of instability to try to reintegrate back into the world that you had not been in for 10 years.
Right.
And I have come through.
Yes, you have.
I have come through. I've come through. It's not been easy. And I will, thank you. I will tell you that this is something that is not at all easy, but I chose to, and it was on a whim, to put together a cookbook for her granddaughters and some of her great-granddaughters and some of her special nieces. And it was on a day very much like today here in Denver, where it's very cold. You don't want to be out. You don't want to have to mess with anything. And I was cleaning a pantry so I could paint it. And I ran across her cookbooks and had the perfect excuse to quit. And I started writing out some of her favorite recipes. Generations of Good Food was born there. And then it was shortly after that I spoke with someone at Reader's Magnet, and it was during the pandemic, and they asked if I was going to do another book. And I said no, and they said, well, you have a cookbook. We know you've been working on that for your nieces. And then I tied the two books together with my stories of in the recipes that are related to the food and how they relate to the family and family gatherings and bickering and everything else that goes with that.
I think that's what makes that book so special. It's not just a cookbook, Ellie. It has, firstly, it has Italian recipes. We're going to get into that chocolate cake recipe, maybe, right? But it's also has little anecdotes about family and memories and beautiful things, which just makes it, like I said, it's a wonderful read, everybody. So it's really very special. So you know that I'm a sucker for chocolate. Maybe you don't, because we haven't physically met yet. But I'm coming to your house, like I told you last time, and you're going to cook.
And I
Chocolate.
have two velvet chairs that sit at my breakfast bar, and you can sit in one and we can laugh while I stand in the kitchen and cook. I mean,
No, I will help you.
I would enjoy having you. I don't know how much cooking we would get done, but it would be, we would certainly laugh a lot. No doubt about that. We would have a lot to talk about.
We always have a lot to talk about. Share with our listeners and our viewers one of your recipes, not the whole thing, but just a little bit of the love that goes into one of them. Doesn't have to be the chocolate cake.
Can it be the chocolate cake?
Oh, it doesn't have to be, but if it is, yeah.
Okay. Okay. When I was growing up, and this is a story in the book, when I was growing up, my mother always brought a chocolate cake and a chiffon cake to either the church bazaars for the cake sales, to the school bake sales, and people would clamor to buy her cakes. I mean, they knew that my mother knew how to bake and cook. So as time went on, and my mother, I had one has passed away, but I had two brothers and my father, and I was quite young, but my mother quite often would make 2 chocolate cakes a week. We would have one on Sunday. She would bake one on Sundays if she knew we were having company. And then when they would come, they would always have chocolate cake and vanilla ice cream with coffee. And then my brother and my fathers would take it to work in their lunch buckets, their lunch pails, or whatever they call them today. And then by the middle of the week, she'd have to bake a second one. So they would have enough to carry them through to Friday. Well, as time went on, family friends would come and they would say, do you have her chocolate cake recipe? And the answer to that was no. I looked everywhere. I asked cousins. I asked everyone I knew if they had her chocolate cake recipe. I did and always did remember how to make her chocolate frosting. And that as well as in my book, but I also remembered how to make her chocolate frosting. That was something I never forgot. I was little, I used to stand by the counter and watch her bake. So just before I had my cookbook printed, I was looking at the news one day, and there was an article that said the 5 best chocolate cakes. So I thought, well, let me see what this is. And one of the chocolate cakes was the chocolate cake on the back of the Hershey's cocoa can. Well, I use Hershey's cocoa in a lot of my Christmas baking and a lot of baking that I do. And especially if I make a box chocolate cake, I always use it for my mother's frosting. So I went to the cupboard and I pulled out the cocoa can. And the first thing I noticed when I pulled it out was the frosting. And so I got everything together and I baked the cake on the back of the Hershey's cocoa can. I frosted it and I put it in the car and I brought it to my brother's house. And I said, I think I have found the recipe. And it is. And it was her recipe. And so, all these years, she would just take the can out, bake the recipe on the back, put the lid on and put the can away. And it reminds me of when you and I were growing up, Joanne, if you go into a doctor's office and there were people reading magazines, you'd see them ripping recipes out of magazines and folding them up and putting them in their purse. So the doctor's office was always a collection of half pages in the magazines. And that's how I found the chocolate cake recipe.
Well, we are so glad.
And it's a great recipe.
Now, are you going to be making it this Christmas?
Pardon me?
Are you going to be making it this Christmas?
Okay.
You may have a guest.
There's a ton of pasta dishes in there. There's breads. In the sweet Easter bread recipe.
Do you have your books nearby?
Oh, I do. We're right here. Here is
One caregiver's journey.
one caregiver's journey. There's one caregiver's journey. And here is generations of good food.
Beautiful.
Excuse me. Let me get some water here.
So what is your fondest memory of being with your mom?
You know, it would be in the summertime when one of them, I got a lot. Pardon me. It would be
No
in the
worries.
summertime when they would can. And they would can eggplant. They would make an eggplant relish that's called caponata, that's in the book. And it's an eggplant relish. It takes 2 full days to make. In the preparation to make this as 2 full days. But when they would make it when I was growing up, my father would dig a pit. They would dig a pit in the yard, and they would put rocks and wood, and they would light up. It would be a huge fire. They'd put a grate over it, and then they'd put this enormous pan, which, I mean, could be a cauldron, but it was a huge pan. And my grandma would sit in front of this pan with her spoon, with this great big spoon, and they would fill it up they would put olive oil in it, and she would fry eggplant. And then they would get these big bowls, and they'd take the eggplant out, and then they would bring another great big pan and put it up, and she'd make the tomato sauce. And then in the meantime, somebody was roasting celery, and that they had cut. And I mean, it's an enormous job. The recipe will make 52 pints.
Oh my God.
And and that's the recipe that's in the book. But and then we would make it here in my home. We would make it at my first house. And then when we moved here, I have a kitchen in my basement that was strictly for canning and Christmas frying. Christmas baking was always done in the kitchen upstairs. But they always cooked and baked, but they loved their canning. And today it's a lost art. I mean, people will say, you used to make such great pickles, dill pickles and sweet pickles. And those, it's a lost art because it's a lot of work, and one person can't do it, and nobody else has to do all this work.
James is saying, I also love chocolate cakes, especially if done by my aunt. Actually, I love any kind of chocolate. I'm with you, James. How we wish we could fly to your house this Christmas, Ellie. James, you and I are going to have a conversation because we may be surprise guests, but we can't bring chocolate cake.
No.
Because it would never match.
What's our first impression of each other? Oh boy.
Do you remember? I don't. Uh-oh.
I don't know if we ever had a first impression because we have always clicked.
Yeah.
Maybe our first impression of each other was that we always clicked.
Was like,
Joanne
wow.
and I met 3 years ago, and you would have thought we met 23 years ago, but we like each other and we get along well.
We love to laugh together.
Yes.
And we make each other laugh. And that's a big secret to life a little bit. You have to be able to make people laugh and laugh. So you relayed one story when you were hurting and on the couch with your mom, and she was in heaven and laughing and having a great time. What's another memory with you and your mom laughing?
As I started to say, my mother had this little game. She always loved to play little games. And they were always out of her head, so you never knew where they were or what they were. But we would sit at the dinner table, and out of the blue, she would take her fork and she'd tap the side of the dinner plate, and it'd go tap 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 tap. And then I would kind of look at her, And she'd say, "What song is that?" And I'd say, "Criminies. Um, who knows?" And then I'd say, "Mary Had a Little Lamb." She'd say, "No, no, no, it's row, row, row your boat." And then we'd sit there and we'd eat a bit more, and I'd help her, and she'd go tap, 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 tap on the side of the dish, and she'd say, "What song is that?" And I'd say, "Gosh, Mom, you didn't tap enough. I don't know. I can't name a song in 3 taps. I mean, I just can't." And she'd say, "Well, that was Rudy the Red-Nosed Reindeer." So we had Rudy. You all have Rudolph. We had Rudy.
You know, it's beautiful being able to share those memories, and also sometimes being able to, when you're alone, remembering some of the gifts through memories, some of the gifts that
How you did it. How did you do it? Sometimes I will read passages from my book when I'm trying to come up with something for my Instagram posts, and I'll just say to myself, how did I do that? How did I survive 10 years of that? But I did, and I'm a far better person for it, and I'm fine for it.
And you're still happy, and you're still making jokes, and you're still writing, and you're still here. That's a blessing. So if you had to give caregivers of today a little bit of advice, Ellie, what would you tell them?
I would say to them, be patient and be loving. If you have dementia, as my mother did, there's a lot of times that nothing makes sense. It drives you absolutely crazy when they get repetitive. You have to figure out how to survive these repetitive times with either humor, or you have to make a game of it. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways of doing this, but you have to do it somehow. And I would say patience, because there's a time span. They don't move as quickly as you. They don't think as quickly as you. They don't have the same kinds of needs as you. They need more. They need more. And I would say patient. And I always, in my book, I say you need faith, humor, and love if you're going to be successful as a caregiver.
You know,
and those are the 3 things that carried us through.
And that's so very important. Patience. We're getting ready to get out of here. Patience, love, laughter. What was the other one?
Faith, humor, and love.
Faith, of course. Okay. And those are key. And you have done that so beautifully with your mom. And in a way, you bring that forward, Ellie, into your life with your family, because you're very family oriented, and also with other people in the world. So you are a blessing. And I am blessed to know you. And we are so blessed to be here. I think this is the chapter 3, the final day of chapter 3, Reader's Magnet, Storyteller, the Festival of Storytellers signature program. And once again, we want to give Reader's Magnet their due for really giving authors like Ellie and myself an opportunity to share, to make beautiful connections. We're going to be friends for life. Even if she doesn't call me, I'm going to call her and bother her like I do.
I will call you.
I
also agree that this is an extraordinary 14-day event where Reader's Magnet allows everyone who has a story to tell it. We're allowed to share it. Chapter 3 has been a lot of fun. Joanne and I have also moderated some of the roundtable discussions, which bring together a lot of authors from different places. I just have a lot. I'm very grateful for their support. I'm very fortunate to be a part. We are very fortunate to be a part of the Reader's Magnet family. I mean, it's just golly, I've just absolutely loved spending time with you. I've loved the time we've had for the last 2 weeks. It's been a great event. This has been a great event. Kudos to the Reader's Magnet staff and
Kudos to
management.
Reader's Magnet. And again, what they do so beautifully is they allow authors to share their stories with the world, like you've shared
Yes.
today and I've shared today. And what a beautiful opportunity. And Reader's Magnet is always open to authors, whether you're a first-time author or a published author. Come forward with what you have, because
Yes.
what I love, and one of my next books is going that way, is they do illustrations too, which I
Yes.
can't draw.
Me neither. I can cook and bake, but I can't draw.
So we want to thank everybody for being here, especially Reader's Magnet, for all that you do for all of us. And to everybody here, stay safe, stay beautiful, find moments, as I said earlier, to smile, to be grateful for being here this moment, this day. And Ellie, you are a gift. Thank you so much for all
Thank
that
you,
you
Joanne. It's always fun. Thank you. Thank you, Reader's Magnet. And ciao for now.
Ciao, ciao, baby.